The topic: the world is not run by evil, it's run by obedience. Most people believe the world is controlled by evil people, monsters, villains, tyrants. We imagine evil as something loud, violent, cruel, but history tells a very different story. The greatest harm in human history was not caused by evil people. It was caused by ordinary people. People who followed orders, people who obeyed rules, people who said, "I was just doing my job." The world is not run by evil. It is run by obedience. And that truth is far more disturbing than any villain. To understand this, we need to stop asking the wrong question. The question is not, why are people evil? The real question is, why do good people obey harmful systems? The myth of evil people. We grow up believing that bad things happen because bad people exist. We are taught to look for villains, dictators, criminals, extremists. This belief is comforting because if evil is rare, then we are safe. But real harm does not come from rare monsters. It comes from normal behavior. Evil is inefficient. Evil draws attention. Evil gets stopped. Obedience, on the other hand, scales. Millions can obey. Millions can comply. Millions can participate without ever feeling guilty. What obedience really is? Obedience is not being forced at gunpoint. That is not obedience. That is coercion. Real obedience is voluntary. It sounds like, this is how things are. This is how it has always been. This is not my place to question. Obedience is choosing comfort over conscience, belonging over truth, silence over responsibility, and the most powerful systems in history were built on exactly this. Why obedience is more dangerous than evil. An evil person must act alone. An obedient person acts as part of a system. Evil needs motivation. Obedience needs permission. Evil can be resisted. Obedience is normalized. That is why systems prefer obedient people over violent ones. Violence creates chaos. Obedience creates order. And order allows harm to continue quietly. Obedience and authority. Humans are deeply wired to respect authority. From childhood, we are trained to obey parents, teachers, elders, leaders, books, institutions. Questioning authority is framed as disrespect. Disobedience is framed as immorality. But authority itself is not moral. It is simply power. When authority is wrong, obedience becomes dangerous. Yet most people never question authority. They assume authority equals truth. This is how systems survive for centuries. Religion and obedience. Religion does not require people to be violent. It does not require people to be cruel. It requires something far simpler. Obedience. Believe first, question later, or never. Religion trains people to surrender judgment, to accept answers without evidence, to fear doubt more than error. And once obedience becomes virtuous, harm no longer feels like harm. It feels like duty. Morality without thinking. Many people believe morality comes from rules, but rules do not create morality. Thinking does. Rules can justify anything. Slavery, war, punishment, discrimination. History is full of rules that were once considered moral. They were obeyed. They were defended. They were protected. Not because people were evil, but because people stopped thinking. Just following orders. This phrase appears again and again in history. It is always spoken by normal people. Not monsters, not villains, clerks, soldiers, teachers, citizens. People who believe responsibility ended at obedience. But responsibility does not disappear when orders are given. It multiplies. Why people choose obedience? Obedience is attractive for three deep psychological reasons. 1, fear of punishment, fear of hell, fear of rejection, fear of being wrong. Fear does not need to be violent to be effective. Sometimes it is subtle, a look, a warning, a consequence, or the fear of losing approval. When fear exists, thinking feels risky. Obedience feels safe. 2, comfort thinking is exhausting. Questioning creates uncertainty. Uncertainty creates anxiety. Obedience offers peace. It removes responsibility. It allows people to say, I didn't decide this. I just followed it. Comfort is often chosen over truth, not because people are weak, but because comfort feels survivable. 3. Belonging obedience keeps you inside the group. Questioning risks isolation. Humans are social beings. Being accepted feels safer than being correct. Standing alone feels dangerous, even when you are right. That is why most people do not obey because they agree. They obey because they are afraid to stand alone. The silence of good people evil rarely succeeds through action alone. It succeeds through silence. When people see harm but remain quiet. When people notice injustice but say nothing. When people feel doubt but suppress it. Silence feels neutral, but it is not. Silence is obedience in its most invisible form. And when silence becomes normal, harm grows without resistance. Thinking is dangerous, and that's why it's discouraged. Independent thinking threatens systems. It creates unpredictability. It weakens control. It exposes contradictions. That is why thinking is often framed as arrogance, as rebellion, as corruption. People are taught that obedience is humility and questioning is pride. But thinking is not rebellion. It is responsibility. The real question you must ask yourself: have you ever believed something without examining it? Have you ever defended an idea only because it was familiar? Have you ever obeyed a rule you didn't fully understand? If yes, you are not weak. You are human. But awareness is the first step out of obedience. Obedience does not mean evil intent. This is important to understand. Most obedient people are not bad. They are not hateful. They are not cruel. They are simply trained. Trained not to ask. Trained not to doubt. Trained not to stop. That training removes responsibility. And that is what makes obedience so dangerous. Why this matters today. Modern harm rarely looks violent. It looks organized, polite, legal, approved. Systems today do not need evil. They need participation. And participation comes from obedience, what actually changes the world. The world does not change through destruction. It changes through awareness, not through shouting, but through questioning, not through anger, but through clarity. Every harmful system collapses the moment obedience ends. Final realization: evil does not run the world. Obedience does. And obedience survives only as long as people stop thinking. This video is not telling you to rebel. It is not telling you to reject everything. It is asking you to think. Because the most dangerous thing in the world is not hatred. It is unquestioned belief. If this made you uncomfortable, that's a good sign. Discomfort is where thinking begins. Stay curious, stay calm, and stay aware.